Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Az. I'm in unfamiliar surroundings today. As you can see, I'm at my parents' house in Brentwood in Essex, land of Towie, as we like to call it. I'm joined by a familiar face though. It's Mr. Gianni who is at home. Nowhere exciting for you this Christmas then, right?
Yeah, and nowhere near Brentwood, unfortunately. Otherwise, we could maybe go for a beer at the Sugar Hut after the stream.
I was just saying, yeah, I was at the Sugar Hut before it was, famous from the Only Ways Essex. I remember paying about £8 for a bottle of beer there. Back in the day before it took off. Those are the days. How's it been, Jenny? How's your Christmas been? You been all right?
Yeah, mate, Christmas was lovely, but it was dominated or feels like it's been dominated by FPL, which is no bad thing. Because I think I'm going to have a green arrow, so I'm happy. But yeah, I mean, it was um, a lot of tinkering Christmas Eve. I say tinkering. I locked in my team, I think, last Wednesday, and by the deadline, I think I only made one change, and that was
Mm,
Patterson instead of Bueno. So it was locked for a very long time. But in terms of my headspace, I was still always questioning and tinkering, and I was really nervous about one or two moves. The Kai Havertz punt, I know we'll talk about later. So yeah, it's been so far a very good week. The Kevin De Bruyne Salah debate will probably continue way beyond today's show and tonight's games. And I'm on the De Bruyne side of things, side of the fence. But yeah, no matter what happens against Leeds, I still think I'll be very pro De Bruyne moving forward.
yeah, I think it's been another kind of divisive week. I think a lot of people have done well, big scores. The template team has done very well. Martinelli, Almiron, Salah, Kepa, all these guys doing well. Um, it seems to be another week where if you try to be different, you could have got punished. Luckily for you, as we're going to see in a minute, you did get a couple of differential players in, and they've all returned well, which is the opposite of me, who went for Kulusevski and Trossard and got nothing. And I was saying to you before we came on this, I didn't want to do this stream with you when you were on the back of a big green, but yeah, you must be delighted. Let's get your team up. I mean, you must be delighted with how Gameweek 17 is going so far. You had Kepa in goal with his 9, Trippier with 12, Cancelo left to play, Reece James, we're going to talk about him with 1, De Bruyne still there, Marcelo with 8, Almiron with 8, Rashford with 14, your best mate Darwin up top with 2, Kai Havertz, look at that, with 12, and Haaland captain to play. So I mean, only really one differential then, which was you went for Kai Havertz over the likes of Mitrovic and Martial, but 66 points with your arguably the three best City assets to go. I mean, that's a strong game week 17, Gianni.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. And look, there's others out there that have a very similar team to me, perhaps with Martial instead of Havertz. That
Mm,
seems to be sort of the Twitter template, if you like. And they had Salah instead of De Bruyne. So they've had an even better week so far than me. But let's see what De Bruyne does. But yeah, I'm very happy. And it's when your differentials hit, that's when it really not only makes a difference to your confidence and your mindset as an FPL manager, but it really makes a difference to your rank. Because for every point Havertz scores, I think I looked on live FPL, I get something like a 12k rank increase.
yeah.
Yeah, every point Rashford scores or Trippier scores, it's hundreds. So it really matters when you have a player that no one else has that
Mm,
is doing well. And look, guys, let us know in the chat if anyone else out there is owns Havertz. I think he's 3.8% owned. So a real differential there. So those 12 points felt like 20, 30 points. Like it felt like a huge, huge win for me. So I'm really happy with that. And not just happy that you got the 12 points, but yes, happy Chelsea won, but also happy that I don't now have to worry about selling him for game week 18. Because when you go for a punt like Havertz, I was fully prepared to sell him to Mitrovic come game week 18. It was a 1 week punt. If he plays well or if he scores, he stays in my team. If he gets hooked at half time or even early or Chelsea play poorly, I sell him. Now, look, I would love to get Mitrovic in this team, but I'm never selling Havertz for Mitrovic off the back of what we saw yesterday.
interesting.
So yeah,
Mm,
I'm very happy. All the other players pretty much delivered. Reece James is a difficult one, but look, you've all got him. I didn't really care about FPL when Reece James went off injured yesterday. I cared about him and Chelsea, and it really doesn't hurt your rank at all because everyone has Reece James.
yeah. I mean, he always seemed that this was likely, right? I mean, even before the game, there was lots of people talking about how he's probably going to get 1 point, how he's going to go off injured or something. and then when it happens, you kind of end up thinking to yourself, well, yeah, I mean, we when we do these streams and we're advising people and we're telling people what to do, one of the biggest bits of advice we often give to people is don't bring in players who have got a bit of an injury cloud around them. Don't bring in a player with a bit of an injury cloud around them when there's a festive schedule with three game weeks in a week. And I mean, it's very unfortunate for him, obviously, and for Chelsea, but it's unfortunate for us because there doesn't seem to me to be a an easy replacement for him. There's no one around that kind of 6 million mark
No,
that I like the look of. So it's a case of do you maybe go up, try and find the money and go up to a Robertson or a Trent, even though Liverpool aren't looking great defensively, or do you just take all the money out and go down to a 4.5? What are you thinking of doing with him?
I definitely will be going down rather than up. I don't see, and I know a lot will try and go Robbo, and I get it. I think it's 4 assists in four, but just not. He's just not for me. I don't want to spend that sort of money on a player that where clean sheets just don't like look like they're coming. And look, I think they have I think 2 home games now in the next five. It's still not enough for me. So I won't be looking at Liverpool. I'll be looking at ways of saving money, and then with that money, if I want to go and I don't want to go and sell a Martinelli or an Almiron. I'm not looking at doing that yet. But if I want to convert those sorts of players into an 8 million player, like a Mason Mount, then I for a double game week, for example, then I can. So Reece James, I'd be looking to go down. If we hear news of double game weeks for teams like Brighton,
Mm,
maybe look at their defence. But at the moment, my obvious candidate for a replacement is quite a boring pick. I don't often go for centre backs, but it would be Botman. 4.4
mm,
million. I only have two Newcastle. I don't feel like I need to keep the third Newcastle space open. We often talk about clubs like Man City and Arsenal, and you could talk about Newcastle now in the same ilk where you go, oh, do I want to go for a boring defender or leave the spot open? So with Man City, we don't like going double defence just in case Foden bangs, you need to buy him. With Newcastle, as good as they are, I don't feel like I'm going to be jumping on an attacking asset
mm.
other than Almiron. I don't feel like I'm going to go, I need to get Callum Wilson in this week. So with that in mind, I'd be happy going Trippier, Almiron I've already got, adding Botman to the mix that they're an elite defence at the moment.
Yeah, I mean the two kind of obvious options look like a Botman or a Shaw I guess,
Yeah,
at 4.8. Obviously, got the bonus last night. I mean, there's some other options. I mean, you could go to another Chelsea defender. I mean, Cucurella started again. We think his minutes are probably fairly secure. He's not the most exciting because he's hasn't really got much in to offer in the final third, or maybe a Koulibaly or a Silva or someone like that. We've had someone mention Van Dijk in the chat, who's a little bit more. If you think the Liverpool defence is going to tighten up. Other than that, though, I'm finding it hard. I mean, you could go, you've got Ben White there already. I mean, you could go to a Gabriel or a Saliba, but the fixtures aren't amazing. Yeah, I like Botman. I think Botman is going to be very popular for a lot of people. Because we're not gaining any points from Newcastle clean sheets because Trippier
yeah,
is owned by everyone. So you need to double up if you're going to benefit from it.
yeah,
Really.
exactly that.
Mm,
And look, I think from the budget options, I do like Luke Shaw as an option until you look too heavy into the fixtures. Now, going Luke Shaw a week ago, and they had three good fixtures to start this restart 17, 18, 19 all looked okay. But then you do get a couple of tricky games ahead. And I back that Newcastle defence ahead of the United defence. And look, if it wasn't for a very marginal offside call last night, United concede to Nottingham Forest
mm,
at home. That's not brilliant. I know they've got injuries, but that Newcastle defence looks very, very strong. So yeah, Botman would definitely be my first choice in that category. But double game week news could mean you go to Lewis Dunk or a Stupian or a
yep.
Brighton player or elsewhere. So for me, I'm not even 100% fixed. If we hear Reece James is out, confident he will be, that I would even sell him this week. I might give myself another week's breathing space to
Mm,
go, okay, I'll wait and hope we get news of doubles because would Botman get in my 11 this week? I'm not so sure. I'd probably just play Ben White.
mm, yep. Loads of people in the chat. We've got nearly about 250 people watching live. Hello to everyone. Thanks for joining us on this crazy. But it's the kind of the period of the year when I don't even know what day it is or what's going on, or you're just waiting for 2023 to start. So yeah, I'm sure we've got people watching from their sofas and from bed, and probably in the same view as me. So thanks all for watching. Do get your questions in as well. Gianni and I will have a bit of a Q&A at the end of this stream. Too, for you lucky people that are in the chat. If you're listening on the podcast as well, do consider checking us out live on YouTube. Normally we're on a Wednesday as well, and that will continue into the new year as well. Let's have a look at your team then for game week 18. I mean, you're very nicely set up. I mean, everyone should be pretty nicely set up. Obviously, the James injury is a spanner because obviously we'd like to save the transfer, but we're probably not going to be able to. Mitrovic is now got to be a factor. He hasn't got booked. He's going to play against Southampton at home. He won't be playing 9 men every week, but he obviously still looks a great option. But yeah, this is how you're set up. You've got Kepa in goal against Forest, Trippier, Cancelo, Reece James, you need to do something with. When you could play White. De Bruyne, Martinelli, Almiron, Rashford, Darwin, Haaland, and Havertz. We haven't talked about Darwin yet. What did you make of his performance?
Oh, nerve-wracking. I mean, it's the same old story. Four big chances. His XG was, I was looking at the scout members area. Do check that out if you're not already a member. But I think his XG was something like 1.2
Yeah.
alone. Liverpool with the second highest XG of the game week so far. It was something like 2.7. So nearly half that falls to Darwin. And at some point, we're going to say, is Darwin hogging too many of these big chances and Salah therefore not getting enough? Now, Salah still got returns. Some of them, you know, it wasn't the most obvious game for his returns. 2 yard pass to Van Dijk for his finish, for
Yeah.
example, for the assist. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating with Darwin. I keep saying as long as he's getting the chances, I'm happy. And at some point, I'm gonna. That's not going to work for me. I'm going to need conversion rather than expected data. But he he is making intelligent runs, and he is a nuisance. He must be so hard to defend against because he is such a powerful athlete and he is so quick. And the amount of times they got him behind Aston Villa, he
Mm.
caused their back line, Konsa and Ming, so many problems. I do think against Leicester, knowing Leicester have just conceded 3 to Newcastle, he might have some fun at Anfield. So I can't think about selling him yet, but if he blanks against Leicester, knowing Mitrovic, for example, has a double game week, and if Mitro doesn't pick up a booking in game week 18, we know he's should be good for both games in the double, although he could pick up the first game in the double, then maybe I'd look to go Darwin to Mitro. But for the time being, I've got to stay patient. Remember, I don't have Salah either.
No.
So when you sell Darwin, you realise you're not covering Salah at all. Now, there's an argument to say when you own Darwin, you don't cover Salah in the slightest. But I'd say, no, I'm still covering that attack. So if I do sell Darwin, it's scary. It's not so scary going without Salah when you've got Darwin. I think it'd be scary going without Salah
Yeah.
if you don't have any Liverpool attack.
Yeah, I think people have to remember with Darwin that it is very, very, very rare for a player with expected data as good as Darwin's for them not to get points. Like I know
Eventually.
exactly. It feels like he's going to miss chances and he's not a good finisher and all this kind of stuff, but the stats catches up. The only player that I can remember who rarely, backed up like really impressive stats like this was Dusan Tadic when he played for Southampton.
Interesting.
Remember him? I mean,
Yeah.
since he went to Ajax, he's been absolutely killing
Yeah.
it there. But he was a nightmare because he was. I
Was
think
he? I
he was
can't
a.
remember
You
that.
don't remember him? He was about 7 million. He was playing in the
I
team.
remember him playing really sort of being fairly popular at times in
Yeah,
FPL.
he
And
was.
I
But
remember, yeah,
he got
okay.
that 25
But,
pointer, I think, against Sunderland when they won 8-1 or 8-0 or whatever it was. They had an amazing team. They had like Jay Rodriguez, Pella up front.
oh,
They
yeah.
had Van Dijk at the time. Yeah, they had a really, really like fun team, and his underlyings were like absolutely incredible. And he'd get the occasional monster haul, but he'd frustrate. And Darwin is like that, but he's playing for a better side.
Yeah.
He's going to hit some big goals, and his goal and assist record for Liverpool is decent so far. One every 2 games I think he's got. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be one that tests people's patience, I think. But another player that's testing patience, and this was asked by. Let me just find it. Nuclear Atoms in the chat. How much patience should I have with Trossard? I started with
Ah.
I started with Trossard. Were you tempted by him?
Um, I wasn't because of competition for places in
Yeah,
midfield. The midfielder I wanted that I couldn't get to, and that's because I went Havertz instead. And the team reveal I showed on Scout last week was very similar to this, but had Mason Mount in, I think, instead of Almiron. So I'm pleased I went Almiron over Mount, knowing I then had Havertz. But Trossard, I looked at the heat and touch maps as I always do for Brighton, and he was so central and so high. He was the out and out number 9 throughout
mm,
that 90 minutes. Um, Look, you're going to get double game weeks. You can't sell him. I liked Matoma, which I was surprised at. Matoma, 4.9 million. He's
yeah,
0.2% owned. He got his first ever 90. I looked literally an hour ago. He got his first ever, I think, 90 minutes at Brighton. And when he gets, and I always thought, including during the World Cup, I thought if Matoma becomes a 90-minute man at Brighton, he'll be someone I want in my team.
Mm,
And he might just be becoming that 90-minute man. I mean, time will tell, but it was a good indicator. And if Matoma becomes a thing, then I'd be less likely to go to Trossard. Now, Trossard's the better option, but they're very different price points. And it might be that I'm looking for that cheapo. After Pereira's double game week, for example, you go Pereira to Matoma as your
mm.
fifth midfielder.
Yeah, I think Trossard is when you see like Trossard getting shifted over to like a nine-ish position, you think that's going to be really good. But it's one of those ones where actually I think it harms him a bit like when
I've heard you
Foden.
say that before, I
Yeah,
think this weekend showed it.
yeah, he didn't have a good game anyway. His touch was a bit off, and he wasn't really too involved. And it's one of the weaker games I've seen him play. But he's dropping back and he's linking up playing stuff. Whereas Matoma's on the left, which is where Trossard's been playing, and he was much more involved in the dangerous areas. And yeah, I mean, you've got to think Welbeck's going to come back and Trossard will be put back over to the left, and there's going to be a bit of a competition between where's Matoma going to play because Estupinian's playing well. But Matoma, I don't see how he can be benched at the moment because he's absolutely electric. His feet, he's like,
Yeah.
honestly, I know this is a ridiculous comparison, but his like build and the way he controls the ball is Messi-esque, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, he's
he's got
not as
that.
good as Messi. He's not going to get a goal or an assist every game like Messi does, but his close control is fantastic, and he's so quick. The ball is just like glued to his feet, and he's a young player. We paid like £2 million for him. He's going to get better and better. So yeah, I really like Matoma. But in answer to your question, Nuclear, you've got to keep faith in Trossard for now
Yeah,
because you've
yeah.
got him, and he's going to be a player that occasionally gets a big haul, and occasionally Arsenal, I think, is a good game for him.
He always scores against good teams.
He
He always
does.
scores against Chelsea.
Yep.
Like he's very good against good teams. And also, look, you went for your Brighton assets because of the hope of double game
Mm,
weeks. So you can't sell ahead of those doubles. I mean, unless they're really playing poorly, which they're not.
yep. Absolutely. Let's take some other questions. Ed's in the chat. I have to stick with Darwin, right? Oh no, it's you. That's you in the chat.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's me.
You're asking if you should stick with. You're supposed to be telling us.
But it was when I wrote that when I was talking about staying with Darwin. I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that.
Mm,
Yeah, I think I probably do have to. I mean, I'm definitely going to. But I just wonder at what point will I look to sell? And Darwin is a little bit. Well, he's one of those players that whenever you sell, you'll be really worried that next week is a haul because he gets the chances.
mm.
And when that haul comes, it will really hurt you because he is highly, highly owned. But it'll be interesting. The FPL community are pretty much all on Darwin. And I wonder if we all sell the same week, if there's that
Mm.
obvious candidate. Maybe it's to Mitrovic for the double. Or maybe it's not for another month or two. I don't know.
Well, I think Darwin to Mitrovic is probably going to be quite popular outside of the FPL, Twitter scout community because you've got a player that's blanked like Darwin and a player who's
Yeah.
just hit a 15-point haul like Mitrovic. So Mitrovic has already gone up in price, and you've got to think who are people selling? They're going to be selling the players that blanked in
But is
17.
Darwin owned outside the community as? I know he's like 20% ownership, but I feel like that is almost like that's everyone that's a scout member. That's everyone that's on
Yeah.
FPL Twitter. We all own Darwin. None of my mates in my mini leagues, from like my home mates, my casual mates that don't know about Scout and FPL YouTube and Twitter, none of them have Darwin.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the people who are the ones that are going for him without Salah, right? Or they're going for Haaland and De Bruyne maybe, or Haaland and Kane and can't fit him in and think he's the kind of make weight. But
Yeah.
it's amazing how that's just been. I mean, I was on that train. I thought Darwin would not outscore Salah. I expect Salah to outscore him between now and the end of the season, but I thought Darwin could kind of keep pace with him a little bit. And already he's now what 12 points
Yeah.
behind him in the thing. So it's going to be a patience tester because if Salah keeps doing well, and obviously he's got the penalties as well, then there might have to
Mhm.
be some kind of changes made. A few people asking about Wilson in the chat. That was a bummer, wasn't it? That was the big shock, I think, him not starting.
That's a tough one to call because Eddie Howe is notoriously one of the managers that doesn't give any info,
Mm,
and it wasn't even like an injury. So which in a way is good news because he's not going to be out for a long time. I think it said it was just flu and he needed to just get better. I personally think if you're on Callum Wilson now, there's a big risk he doesn't make 18 because game week 19 is a tougher game round the corner. Where I think they I can't remember who they play. I think it's Arsenal 3 days later. So look, will he be rested against Leeds? Chris Wood's just scored a goal. It's only Leeds at home. and then you go, you're ready for the big game in game week 19. I personally think if I was on Callum Wilson, I'd be selling to Mitrovic. If I was on Martial or Havertz, I wouldn't be selling to Mitrovic. If I was on Wilson, I would.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think, yeah, I mean, it's annoying because I think people might have gone for Wilson as an alternative to Almiron. I mean, I was considering if you didn't want to double up on Newcastle attack, you think, okay, Wilson, he's come back from the World Cup, didn't get too many minutes there, but he's on penalties, he's fit, he's playing, no indication that he's injured, all that. I'll avoid Almiron and try and steal a bit of a march from people with Wilson, and then Wilson misses out, and a lot of our bench options didn't do anything. I mean, Bueno, Patterson, you've got Ben White, Pereira, all
Yeah,
these players banked, so you're getting 1 point off that. And I nearly tore my team apart for Wilson because I really thought I really wanted him, I really believed in him. I went with Martial in the end, and now I'm thinking about maybe doing Martial to Mitrovic. But I think if you've got Wilson to Mitrovic, like you say, is an easy move.
I
Um,
think so.
yeah,
Hey, Az, it's funny. No matter how many times you caveat it, when you say something like Matoma's like Messi, you know you're going to get stick. And Mrs. in the chat says, I'm still trying to recover. So I know exactly what you mean. And I think that's a good comparison. You're not saying they're the same player. You're saying they've got similar attributes. None of
yes.
Matoma's are as good as Messi's, but they move in similar ways or similar skill sets. So I once said, this is a good one. In a similar way, you can, and I stick by it, but Podence at Wolves, right? When I first started watching him, I went, he's just like he's nowhere near as good, but he's like Hazard, and he is. You watch Podence play; he moves in the same way. He's got a similar skill set. He's nowhere near as good as Hazard in any way, but it's the same sort
It's
of
the low center of
type
gravity, right?
comparison.
It's the low center of
Yeah,
gravity. That's the key thing. He runs a bit like him. I can see it.
yeah,
Yeah, I can see
yeah,
it.
and he sticks his bum out when he runs.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. He sticks his bum out. That's
Yeah.
exactly what Hazard did, and Ivanovic for some reason as well. He was
Oh yeah, Ivanovic with a big bum.
he had a big bum. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't want to make this a Matoma show, but Matoma's feet are incredible. Like
But he keeps the ball in when it's even out of play. He's that
yeah,
quick.
exactly. I know the VAR can't even catch him. His feet are so fast. Yeah, obviously he's. I mean, if he gets close to Messi's career, then I'll be pretty happy with that as a Brighton fan.
Yeah.
Um, Arsenal mids. You went with
Oh
Martinelli.
yeah.
They all delivered. Odegaard, Big Hall, Saka, Martinelli, all doing well. Nketiah as
Yeah.
well. Literally, you could have picked any Arsenal player and they got you points. I obviously went with none because I'm an idiot. But you stuck with Martinelli. You happy with that?
I don't know. So look, I if I sell Reece James, which I'm probably going to do, I want triple Chelsea for the double. And the Chelsea player I want, the third Chelsea player I want, and I was watching the game yesterday going, shame I can't get to Mason Mount because I've already got three Chelsea. Well, Reece James coming out of my team allows me to get Mason Mount in it. Now, I don't know if I don't want double Chelsea long term. Havertz and Mount. Don't want double Chelsea attack long term unless they start putting up really good XG numbers. And their XG yesterday was 1.7. It's been averaging around 1. So they are doing better, although it was Bournemouth. Um, Now, who do I sell to get Mason Mount? I'm not selling De Bruyne. I'm definitely not selling Rashford or Andreas. And look, Almiron, it was between Almiron and Martinelli. And then Almiron did what he did this weekend. And I see how Newcastle are playing. Almiron has to stay. Now, I could come off Martinelli just for a week or two, bring in Mason Mount. And then when I go back to Arsenal, it wouldn't be for Martinelli. And
Mm.
that's why I think it'll be Martinelli that I get rid of. Because I watch Arsenal play and look, Martinelli wasn't overly involved. He shares the set pieces with Saka. But the one guy I want in that midfield, after again watching him game week 17, is Odegaard. He's the
Ooh.
cheapest of the three. He's the cheapest of the three, and
Mm.
everything goes through him. And I just know he will play 90 every week. Martinelli at some point will start getting hooked at 75, 80 when Smith Rowe is fit. When they sign this new guy from Shakhtar, he also plays in Martinelli's role. Martinelli is still going to be a starter. He's fantastic. But he will often be first, second sub when you're making attacking
Mm.
subs. Odegaard will be the 90-minute man, and I mean, I think you guys spoke about Odegaard on Black Box. His data is as good as Martinelli's, if not better. I really think that will be the Arsenal mid I want. Look, maybe I'll be doubling up and going Martinelli and Odegaard, but I just thought if I do come off Martinelli for Mount, then when I go back on, it probably won't be for Martinelli because I won't have the value there, and it will just be for who I think is the best option, forgetting about value, and that would be Odegaard for the price I pay.
So is that your move this week? You're thinking of James to Botman, and then what for 19? Then get in Mount for
Martinelli for
Martinelli.
Mount. That's my early plan,
Mm.
but I don't think I'd do James to Botman this week. It depends how Leeds play against Man City. If I think Newcastle keep a clean sheet against Leeds, Look, Leeds attack might look good against City, and I think, oh, I'd play Ben White ahead of Botman, therefore I might as well
Mm.
just wait a week just in case something else happens. But my loose plans are James to Botman, Martinelli to Mount, and then to come to invest back in that Arsenal midfield, especially knowing doubles are coming. But they have got a couple of tricky fixtures. So I'd go back on an Arsenal midfielder that perhaps might not be Martinelli and it'd be Odegaard.
Yep. Final question, just coming back to Darwin, because a few people have mentioned Gakpo in the chat, which we didn't discuss. Obviously, Liverpool have now signed or agreed to sign uh, Gakpo, sweeping the rug out from Manchester United
Yeah.
again, which seems to be something that happens a bit too regularly with the Glazers in charge. What do you reckon of that signing? I mean, firstly, what do you think of the signing, and how do you think it affects the Liverpool attack generally?
Firstly, well played Liverpool. Like they seem to do manage their transfer business like none of the other elite clubs. So everyone knows their business. Well, Liverpool keep it all protected. No one knew Darwin was signing. No one knew Luis Diaz was coming. Out of nowhere, they beat other clubs to these players. I think he's a great signing. I'm hoping from an FPL perspective he'll be a midfielder. I think he will be. And I think he'll be a similar price to Luis Diaz when he came in. I think 8 million.
Yeah.
Um, I think if 8.5 is still a good price, any more than that, you might question it. But I think it's a good signing. I think we'll see him on the left and Darwin down the middle and Salah down the right for the time being. And then look, when the others are back fit, Jota and Diaz, Darwin won't be an FPL option because unless he's scoring goals, he's not going to be in the
Mm,
team. It doesn't matter what he costs them. So I think it's smart business. I think it's good business. Many will say Liverpool don't need him, but don't underestimate the amount of fixtures a club like Liverpool play, even when they're all fit. You need these options. And Liverpool, unlike, say, City, Chelsea, and even United at times, have never had the biggest squad. So when they do get injuries, it often hits them. And I think they're building that bigger, better squad. And he had a great World Cup. He's a
mm.
brilliant player.
Hell of a lineup. I mean, Jota,
Yeah,
Darwin, Salah, Firmino, Nunes,
yeah. It
Diaz,
does. It does feel
Gakpo.
heavy.
It
It does
does,
feel
doesn't
like it's
it?
too. But
Yeah.
I guess Bobby's probably out in the summer. I don't know what his
Mm,
contract situation's like, but yeah, I mean, Firmino and Salah are both now, I think, the wrong side of 30 or 30 and over. So they're looking to get, yeah, young talent in. And they've certainly done that with Luis Diaz and Jota and Gakpo. That could be some front three for the next 5, 10 years.
mm. The wrong side of 30. Oh God, that's depressing for both of us.
I'm now
Um,
the wrong side of 35. I was 35 last week, mate.
ooh, ooh. I
35.
was that you.
I,
You're looking good though. Short your hairs. You've had your hair cut off.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
looking fresh. I've had a beard trim, which I'd only do every fortnight. I did that last night, and I've had the haircut. But to the point where I've joined a local football team, and on Boxing Day they have a game which is the over 30s versus the under 30s. And the guy that's leading the under 30s team for the game on Boxing Day texted me and was like, "Just want to see if you can play for the team." And I was like, "Dude, I'm over 30." And he went, "Oh, really? How much by?" And I was like,
Oh
"Oh,
well,
I'm
good for
5 years.
you, Gianni. Good for
I'll
you.
be I'll be playing for. I said I qualify for the vets team, mate. 35 and above. I play for the vets.
Well, you
Forget
play
your
for
under and
Team
over
North, and you're
30s,
not from the North, so you might as well play for the bloody under 30s as well.
mate. I barely play for this team. So this team at Uppingham, they're brilliant. I go to training, but I've still not had a start for them. I literally just run the line. I do the line in the first half, and then in the second half they give me 20 minutes out of pity.
Oh wow! Did you not show him your goal from like from the summer?
It's funny you say that because when I tweeted them saying, "Can I come join the team?" I actually sent the tweet of my
Did you
goal.
actually? Of course you did.
I said I'm a centre back and I occasionally score goals and sent them this. Can I come to training? And
Amazing.
look, it turns out the standard's way too good for me, which is why I'm the linesman.
You're gonna end up with like a compilation reel, aren't you, of all your skills and tricks from the from the charity matches. I like it. Right, let's take a couple of questions before we finish. Ruben Andre says Darwin or Havertz. Darwin or Havertz or Bueno or Reed. The phone's going. That's a new one for them.
Oh,
It's a
yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Landline. You don't need it there,
Landline. You can
mate,
tell them at my
often.
parents' house.
I mean, I wouldn't be selling Darwin to Havertz, but Havertz over Darwin if you've got that. Let's say you're on a wild card, I'd be going Havertz. So yeah, that'd be my move. Havertz, I think ahead of Nottingham Forest and a double. Now we know he's playing number 9 is a really really nice option. Just beware if he has one really poor game, he'll probably be dropped.
Mm,
Like Aubameyang is sat there waiting. This isn't a guy that's can have a bad game and still stay in the team, like a Mason Mount or a Reece James when fit. Havertz is still on the fringes of that 11. He just needs to keep playing well and he'll keep his place.
Yep. Uh, Bueno or Reed. I mean, we're getting down to the dregs now. I mean, Bueno was taken off, wasn't he? And 8-0 he scored. So we've now got to think that
Yeah,
his position's your best mate Bueno, who you didn't end up with. Can't believe he's not in your side. You're the
I
biggest
know. I
Bueno
mean,
fan out there.
for the point one, I was like, I can go Patterson, who's going to have probably a double game week. So yeah, it was literally just for that. And also, I think in game week 25, when there's some blanks, Everton are less likely to blank than Wolves.
Mm, yeah, I think I think the Fulham defence we haven't really mentioned, but might be a decent option. I mean, Southampton at
Yeah,
home and then a double. Someone like Ream maybe or Tete got the assist potential as well. Yeah, not too bad options. I mean, nothing crazily exciting, but if you're moving James on, you want to go cheap, then I think going for Botman or a Fulham defender is okay, or a Shaw. I mean, there are some options, just none of them really massively stand out. Let's take a couple more. Um, Manuel wants to know: Are you going to captain Havertz in 19?
no. Unless Haaland gets injured tonight, and then even then, I'd probably captain De Bruyne or
Really?
I've actually got the
You
vice.
go for a single game week or over a double
Oh, sorry, in 19, I was
in
thinking of
19? Yeah,
18.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Captain Havertz yeah, definitely it'll be a double game
yep,
weeker. My plan was actually to captain Reece. If he was fit, I was thinking by then Reece James. But no, it will be
yeah,
Havertz or Mount. It'll be a Chelsea player for sure. I mean, Haaland plays Chelsea in a single game week. Yeah, it will be a doubler.
yep. FPL Spartans, who's the best Brighton defender for the potential double triple game week in 21?
I don't know. I mean, Estupian feels nailed now, and he's cheap. If you've got a little bit more, I've always liked the goal threat of Lewis Dunk. What's your who would you go to as?
I'd go with Stupinian because I don't think he's going to be dropped when we're playing the way we are. But I think because this game is probably going to be in 21, we've probably got quite a settled tape up until then. But I
Yeah,
do worry a little bit when Welbeck's back that we might see Matoma playing a little bit at left wing back because they're going to have to slot him in
yeah,
somewhere, and
yeah.
Trossard will have that left spot nailed down unless he moves into central centre mid. But then Lallana's playing amazingly well there, so yeah, I think that left back spot could be a little bit ropey. But I'd go with Stupinian. I think he's at the moment he's for the games we need him for. He's the one that I'd pick.
Yeah.
Men Star wants to know where's your man bun gone?
The barber told me he was like, "You're a dad now. You need to have a smarter look." And I was like,
Love
"Hey,
that.
let's do it." The wife's been on at me for ages to get a haircut, so there we go. It was only grown because of lockdown. It wasn't meant to be a thing.
Mm. It's your signature look now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Final question then, and that is another one on Reece James. Just if you would you consider keeping him, or do you think he's got to be a hard sell, given
We
that
just need to know more,
yeah.
and I think we'll get that in the press conferences. His private coach or physio, I think his private coach put a message on Instagram stories last night with the emoji of zipping up like your mouth, and he was seething apparently. So I think there's been a bit of a clash there between club and the
Oh,
player clearly
okay.
wanting to play, but I think the coach, the training coach, fitness coach for Reece James, he's got a private one didn't think he was ready to be playing. And it's the same right knee that kept him out of the England team. So I feel like this might be a bit of a setback and he might be out
Yeah,
a fair few weeks.
he's got to go because even if he's fit, he's still going to be wrapped up, isn't he? Like
Yeah,
more than he would have done before potentially. So yeah,
yeah. Rushed and arguably off the back of being rushed up. Yeah,
absolutely.
rushed.
Yeah, I think you've got to sell him, and then do you go up to Robertson or Van Dijk, or do you go down to a 4.5-ish million defender? I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Right, Gianni, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back again next week. I imagine. I'm not sure what the schedule looks like. Are there games? No, next week there isn't.
Yeah. No, there
There
is.
isn't. Is there no
There's
deadline?
another fast turnaround, isn't there? So game week 18, what we're about to go into, starts on Friday, finishes
19's on
Sunday,
Monday, but
and
then
then
I think,
19 is Monday.
there's a break for a bit. I think there's a week off, so we might
Oh.
not be back next week.
Hang on, does this mean we're not going to do a team reveal before game week 19? We're
No,
probably not going to have a chance because
no,
the game it's Sunday finish and then Monday start.
no. This is like your 18 and 19 team involved. But you said your moves. You're going to do James down to Botman
There we go. Yeah.
and then Mount coming in for Marcelli. I like it.
Yeah. And
Uh,
it'll be Havertz captain in 19, maybe.
Wee, there you go. That will be exciting.
Yeah, no one, well,
No
very
one will
few
do
will be
that.
captain in Havertz.
No, Mount's going to be popular now. He's got like, oh, bloody Mount. I just looked on Twitter and I just got like hundreds of
Yeah, I
people.
bet.
It's like, for God's and it's because I bloody pinned the tweet saying he was a bad option as well.
Oh my God, you pinned it as well.
Oh, that was a bad move. Yeah, I
Excellent.
deserved that. As soon as he scored it, I was like, had to be. Excellent, Gianni. Thank you so much. We'll be back again at some point. Not sure when, but sometime soon. Enjoy the rest of your time off. Presuming you've got time off. Are you off at the moment?
Yeah, back
Yeah,
to work on the third, like a
lovely,
lot of people.
lovely.
So yeah, a little bit of
Yeah,
time.
enjoy the next few days, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, mate.